When you see a claw like this, there really is no question where the problem is. Welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. With just a few passes of the cutting wheel, the exact location is identified. There's still quite a bit of hoof horn here, so we're going to continue to use that grinder, bringing that heel height down and removing some of these outer layers before we get to work on the inside with our knife. So what we have here is a white line issue, and not just your ordinary white line issue. This one has been complicated. So whenever you have a white line issue, there's going to be an area of sole separation associated with that. How big? You're never really sure. This one, it's a little bit more extensive. We're going to remove that loose horn and then be able to flush this out and get a good view on the inside of there and see what's going on. Earlier I mentioned that this one was complicated. Complicated by what? We'll see all those little ridges inside there. That's a sure sign that there's dermatitis present. As we work our way around the outside here, the extent at which it's been complicated becomes evident. There's a lot going on there. We've got to continue to work this away so we can fully expose that and be able to treat all those little ridges that we see. What cues am I using to guide my knife work here? What I'm looking for is any loose, detached hoof horn, any ridges that are above that normal sole plane. Those are the things I'm going to remove here, because up in behind that, tucked inside that, is that dermatitis. I need to get that all away so that I can flush it completely out and then get my treatment where it needs to be. So this takes a little bit of time, a little bit more intricate work than is typically seen. We just got to work around these edges and try to get as much of this as we can. It's a little bit trickier because we do have dermatitis complicating this, but we just got to take our time, work our way, and get this area completely flushed out. I don't think there's any question we're going to need a block on this one, so we're going to get this claw prepped and get that block on right now, and then we'll go back and finish our work here. This is the first of 2 trims on this video, so stay tuned for number 2. Here you can see all those little ridges and the dermatitis tucked in and around it. That's what we need to trim away, and that's the areas that we need to focus on and treat. Now we need to tackle some of those ridges you see, giving us full access to those little pockets of dermatitis below that. That's the area we need to get our treatment to, so it's important that we get some of these removed. Having taken away as many of those ridges as we can, now we can get that salicylic acid wrap in place to take care of that dermatitis. If you ever watch my videos, you know that I use salicylic acid on lesions all the time to kill dermatitis, and this is the exact reason why. Dermatitis is the #1 thing that complicates lesions, keeping those lesions open, keeping them from healing. So I want to treat that and try to kill all those bacteria to prevent that from happening. Actually speeds the process up of healing, not necessarily the healing itself, but prevents complications. Here you can see her standing on that block. We're gonna let her go. You can tell immediately she feels much better, walking way better with that block on. Now, let's move on to cow number 2. You can see exactly where the problem is with this one, so let's get to work. This is a different sort of problem. Do you see the cues that give it away? I'll give you a hint. It's that heel bulb. Now you can start to see it in the sole as well. And the specific location of that mark? Yes, very good. You've learned something. This is a sole ulcer. So if you didn't get it right, what is a sole ulcer and what were the cues that gave it away? Well, a sole ulcer is caused by the pedal bone inside the foot pushing down on the corium. That's what causes that little area of protrusion that we see there. Now, some of the hints I gave away was that heel bulb. If you notice, it's a little bit distended toward the inner portions of that claw. That is a giveaway, showing where that inflammation is there. The other thing that I pointed out was the location of that little ulceration there. That is a typical spot. We see that due to the attachment point of the flexor tendon to that pedal bone inside the foot. Because of that connection point, that area tends to get a little bit more pressure right along that area. So that's why we see the location of that ulceration in that particular spot. It's a very common place to find it. Now, the reasons for that, those can be a little bit different. Now, in a normal hoof, that pedal bone is suspended in there and it's held in place firmly. It doesn't have a lot of downward movement inside that claw. But cows can go through periods of their lives when they're having calves, and any type of metabolic changes or physiological changes can cause that suspensory mechanism inside that foot to relax a little bit and allow more movement of that pedal bone. When that happens, that's when you see those pressures get a little bit excessive in certain areas of the foot, particularly this spot, and that's where you can see ulcerations form. So we try to avoid having those problems by doing maintenance trims, keeping these feet in the right positions so that when they do go through these transition periods, this hoof is able to handle that extra movement of that pedal bone without causing problems. You'll notice her toes are a little bit elongated. So what does that mean? If she's got a little bit longer toes, that means when she's standing, that's putting more pressure on the back part of the foot due to that foot angle. So when we maintenance trim them, we're able to trim that claw, keep those angles in the correct positions, keep that foot position correctly, and what that does is distribute weight more evenly across that entire claw, preventing problems like this from happening. Now you'll notice as I trim this foot up, how much toe length that I take away from this. Just doing that is going to help that foot angle out tremendously. Also, by removing more hoof horn toward that toe section, that's going to elevate that heel a little bit, creating a better hoof angle. Notice I'm not taking much off of this medial claw. That's because I'm going to put a block on that other claw, and I want that claw to be a little bit deeper, take the pressure off of this one. Now, as I'm prepping this medial claw for a block, you'll notice that mark in there. That is a spot where you can see sole fractures start to form. Luckily for this, it didn't actually happen. It was just a little mark in that sole, cleaned out nicely, so we can get a block on that. Once again, blocks are used to isolate weight, to take pressure off of that other claw. Here you can see that heel bulb, how it was a little bit distended there. That's from that ulceration in that claw. So we're gonna get that nice thick block there to elevate that claw off the ground. We're gonna get this all cleaned out, and then we're gonna wrap this as well. As we saw from earlier on, dermatitis can complicate these lesions and keep them open. So that's why I treat with salicylic acid. It kills any of the bacteria that might be there that could potentially complicate these lesions, and then we don't have to worry about that, because complication, well, that extends that healing time and causes discomfort if it's not taken care of. So we'll get this sprayed out, get it dabbed dry, and we'll get the salicylic acid wrap in place on her, and then she too will be done. As she exits the chute, you'll notice how nice she walks with that soft rubber block on. It's all about the comfort.